Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to another video. Another paid request. It's time for Walker. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, Walker wanted me to do another comparison video, which these are interesting to do. So thank you, Walker. Dumb and Dumber 2 versus Horrible Bosses 2, because he had sent in the request for me to review Horrible Bosses 1 and 2. And I said Horrible Bosses 2 was a really lame, crappy sequel. Now, in comparing that with Dumb and Dumber 2, I definitely think Dumb and Dumber 2 is way, way worse. But I think that also is chalked up to the fact that I'm a much more bigger fan of Dumb and Dumber 1 than Horrible Bosses 1. I didn't mind Horrible Bosses. I reviewed it. I didn't mind it. I overall liked the film. But would I ever see the film again? Probably no. But Dumb and Dumber I grew up with more. I just have much more fondness to it. I find it much more funny, much more entertaining. It's one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies. And I just got a lot more genuine laughs and entertainment out of Dumb and Dumber. So when the sequel came out, it was such a piece of shit. It was that much more of an infuriating disappointment. Because with Horrible Bosses 2, I have to say that the actors did what they could, but the story and the other pieces of effort wasn't there. Meaning, with Horrible Bosses 2, I still got a chuckle here and there from Jason Bateman. The other two guys, did what they could, but it was just a bad script. One of the first jokes is, we're on TV and it looks like I'm jerking this guy off. When instead it's all in silhouette and there's, you're stealing jokes from, that's like Austin Powers. I saw that shit done in Austin Powers. Was it the first or second one where, I think the second one, the second one where it looked like Heather Graham was pulling shit out of Austin Powers' ass, but instead it was other stuff. I think in the first Austin Powers there was something like that. I forget what it was. That's your script for Horrible Bosses 2. And then it just felt a lot like either a remake of the first movie, and what they learned in the first movie didn't matter because they were supposed to be their own. They were happier at their jobs, but now they quit their jobs at the beginning of Horrible Bosses 2. I'm like, wait, you did all that stuff for Horrible Bosses 1 to have a better working environment, to have a better state, and at the end it seemed like you were. But then you quit your jobs and decide to own your own business? When did that come about? That felt like the point of Horrible Bosses 1 was kind of depleted. And then at the end of Horrible Bosses 1, they lose their business, and then they're working for Kevin Spacey. Which was the whole point of the first one, was not to work for a shitty boss at the end. And then even the point of that film, you think, is to be their own bosses, and then they failed that, and now they're working for a piece of shit like Kevin Spacey. So all the work to not work with a terrible person, the first film, was completely thrown out the window. And it just felt repeated dads. Here's a repeated dad of someone sticking a toothbrush up their ass and putting it back. His repeated dad of having Jamie Foxx and bring up a random movie. I forget what it was in either film, but yeah, one or the Jamie Foxx meets him and almost doing the same shit. Don't get me started on the end of the Horrible Bosses 1. Jennifer Aniston seems like she gets her comeuppance, but in the second one, she seems to get her revenge and win because she wanted to have sex with this guy, and now all of a sudden did when he was in a coma, and then even threatens to have sex with his wife. So that makes the whole comeuppance she has in the first film completely pointless. And that's one that, and it's just not being nearly as funny or warranted as the first one is the big mistake. Horrible Bosses 2. But notice how I said that the three actors, Jason Sudeikis and Jason Bateman and such, I didn't have a whole lot of issues with them. Dumb and Dumber 2, not only does it have a bad script, and just terrible jokes. It doesn't even feel like it's made from the same people who did Dumb and Dumber 1. And sadly it is. And the two lead actors are embarrassing. That's why to me it's one of Jim Carrey's worst movies. He is embarrassing as Lloyd. And Jeff Daniels as Harry. They're embarrassing that film. They are piss poor in terms of the comedic timing isn't there anymore. The acting in that movie isn't there. You just feel more sad because they're so much older, so much more wrinkly, and yet they're trying to do the same shit and trying to strike lightning again, which they don't. And then you try to have this desperation of trying to have much, much more gross out dads because people enjoyed the bathroom scene in Dumb and Dumber 1. No, for me, that's the one scene I don't like in Dumb and Dumber. I know a lot of people like that scene. I don't. If I watch Dumb and Dumber, I fast forward through, oh, he's shitting for, a couple minutes in a toilet. I fast forward through that stuff. What was funny about Dumb and Dumber is just how sincere they seemed in being dumb. And they didn't feel as mean-spirited either. Whether it be Austria. Good day, mate. Let's have another shrimp on the barbie. He wasn't doing it to make fun of someone. He was doing it because he sincerely thought Austria and Australia were the same place. Him sincerely thinking we landed on the moon when he sees the old newspaper. Even Jeff Daniels, when he's having the snowball fight and puts her head in the snow, and he's like, come on, let's go. He thinks he's playing. Not... Even with the whole Petey, them sincerely thinking that the head just fell off, not that someone had went in and killed it. A pair of heads have fallen off. In the second one, it felt like much more mean-spirited. It just felt like they're laughing at a guy on fire, and they're like some of the other stuff they do. I'm like, they just felt more like assholes in it. And I'm trying to remember all the D's of Dumb and Dumber 2. To be honest, a lot of it I've forgotten. But it's a lot more just gross out dads too. Jim Carrey's character faked himself being in a coma for years, and then they're trying to fire off this thing that's attached to his dick, where the urine would go in, or Jim Carrey going into an old woman's cooch and there's a bunch of dust that comes out. It didn't have this. I mean, it's like it didn't know what made Dumb and Dumber 1 work. And the two were just a lot of mudding, like over excessiveness of mudding on Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels' part. It's like they forgot how to play these characters. I'd say in Horror Bosses 2, the three actors didn't forget how to play the characters, it's just the lame script. Here you have a lame script with and I'm not into gross out dads. That's not my type of humor. It's just not. When I looked at, there are films that have them in it that I do enjoy, to be fair. But like The Golden Child and Beverly Hills Cop and The Big Lebowski and Clerks and, there's some in Harold Kumar Go to White House, but not nearly as much as other movies compared to them. 3 Men and a Baby, Jumpin' Jack Flash, It's more See No Evil, Hear No Evil. It's more about like the characters and the verbal jabs and all that stuff. This is more my type of humor. Like the one joke I remember in Dumb and Dumber 2 that I thought felt like the first one was they talked to someone. It's actually, I forget her name, from Romancing the Stone. She voiced Jessica Rabbit in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Kathleen Turner. They go to her, and she's like, I want you to find my daughter. Gives him the letter, And they drive all this way, and they come back, and they knock on the door, and it's Kathleen Turner, and they're like, "Oh my God, you look just like your mother." And she takes the letter. "See this? This is my address. But you see this here? This is the address you're supposed to go to." That felt like the first one. And I'm not saying felt like I'm not saying it needs the same plot, the same beats, but I'm talking about the spirit. Because Horrible Bosses, it felt like the same beats. I'm not saying to have the same beats. I'm not saying to have more jokes about what's the most annoying sound in the world and shit. I'm saying the same spirit. This doesn't feel in the same spirit. At the end, it felt like Fairly Brothers at their worst, trying to outdo There's Something About Mary and such in terms of gross out gags. And the two lead performers, easily some of the worst performances in both of their careers. Jeff Daniels felt less subtle and more muddying. I know it's weird to say subtle and Dumber, but compared to Jim Carrey and compared to how he is a Dumb and Dumber 2, it did feel more subtle. Like when he's putting gas into the truck. "Ah, steez. They're yours? Both of them?" And he's saying such deadpan, with such a deadpan stare and deadpan delivery that makes it funnier. While in Dumb and Dumber 2, he's always like, he's diddling. Like, he's like Mr. Hyde of Jekyll and Hyde. He's always like, as if that's how he thinks Harry was played. And yeah, it's like Jeff Daniels forgot how to play him. Same with Jim Carrey. It's like him trying to fit into a suit, but the suit is too small for him. It doesn't fit as much as it used to back in the day. And the thing with Dumb and Dumber 2, it was just very unfunny, very sad to see these guys in this old age and perform this way. And so while the both sequels I don't like, because Dumb and Dumber 1 was such more of a film I enjoyed more throughout the years, that I saw upon much more multiple times. And I mean, Dumb and Dumber 2 still had that bit where they just try to copy shit from the original as well. Like Horrible Bosses 2. There's another dream sequence where Jim Carrey's characters imagine himself doing all these things, and there's another sequence. What was it? Yeah, the dream sequence. There's the bit where the two are fighting over a girl again. Only this girl they think maybe is a daughter. Later on, then they realize it's neither their daughters. Which is hell. That reminded me of Father's Day with Billy Crystal and Robin Williams, and I'd rather watch that movie. Apparently this rooster is very pissed off I'm talking about Dumb and Dumber 2. He won't shut up. Apparently he's having a protest outside my window saying, "Stop talking about Dumb and Dumber 2. See, there you go. He's pissed. So I guess I better, before his little head explodes into a box of KFC or a bucket of Popeyes. Like I said, Dumb and Dumber 2 just pissed me off. Horrible Bosses 2 I didn't care for, but I'm like, okay. I remember, yeah, I didn't remember the first one. I saw it again. I didn't mind it. This felt pretty much a big step down. Dumb and Dumber 2 is much more rage-induced. I'm like, this is what, after all these years, this is what you do with it? This felt really shitty. Just really... And I'm trying to remember the details of Dumb and Dumber 2. Just probably spend... When did it come out? 2014 or so? I can't remember. It's been since then that I've seen the film. I haven't seen the film since. So there you go. Now I can imagine someone requesting a commentary. You know, well, I mean, if it's a good size donation, I'd consider it. But anyway, Like I said, Dumb and Dumber 2 was just more angry and more sad to watch. I don't know how else to put it than that. With that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.